Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Brant County Council meeting of January the 30th, 2024. Attendance has been taken, noting that Councillor Pierce is in Disney World, and he won't be with us. Councillor Howes is online, which makes everyone else accounted for. Which takes us to number 2 on the agenda, which is the land acknowledgement, which is going to be read by Councillor Kyle.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. As we gather, we acknowledge that we meet on the lands and territory of the Mississaugas of the Credit First Nation, Six Nations of the Grand River, and the traditional territory of the Attawandaronk. We remind ourselves that the County of Brant is situated on lands that are full of rich Indigenous history and home to many First Nations, Inuit, and Métis people today. We recognize the significance of their contributions to the past, present, and future of this land. As a county, we have a shared responsibility for the stewardship of the land on which we live and work, and a commitment to truth and reconciliation calls to action. We commit to continuing learning, reflecting on our past, and working in allyship.
Thank you very much. That takes us to number 3 on the agenda, which is the approval of the agenda, noting that we have an addendum. Is there anything else anyone wants to put on the agenda? Councillor Chambers.
Mr. Mayor, could I just have a clarification on the agenda, and that's with regard to the notice of motion? It's my understanding that that will be given as a notice of motion this evening, and then the actual motion will be reconsidered at a special council meeting Thursday afternoon.
Absolutely.
So there's no discussion on the motion tonight.
No.
And that would be according to the procedure bylaw.
That's right. I wouldn't mind getting a bit of an idea as to why it's coming forward, but there'll be no discussion on it.
I understand. So
thank you.
Clarification.
Councillor Bell.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Can I raise one piece of other business?
Okay, do you want to tell me, or do you want to tell me when we get there?
When we get there.
All right. It's anything else for Councillor Miller?
Yes, Mr. Mayor. I was going to ask for, under other business, an update on Brant Transit and the transition, how that's going. And I did communicate with Melissa Connor today. She said she won't be here tonight. She's not feeling well, but she did tell us that she will provide council with an update on the Friday file set up. So I'm okay with that, but just thought I'd bring that forward.
Perfect, thank you. So is there anything else to be added to the agenda? Seeing none, Councillor Coleman.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Move by myself, second by Councillor Kyle, that the agenda and addendum for January 30th, 2024 County of Brant Council agenda be approved.
Thank you. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. Takes us to number 4 on the agenda, which is the declaration of pecuniary interests. If you have any or find any that crop up, please let me be the first to know. Takes us to number 5 on the agenda, which is the delegations and the presentations. And the first people up are the Federation of Women's Institutes, which is Margaret and Nancy. If you want to come to the podium, please, and give us your names and your address. You can just use the Homestead's address, and you're going to have 10 minutes for your presentation, and then we're going to open it for questions.
Thank you. Good evening, Mayor Bailey, councillors, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Margaret Bile. Our address will be 359 Blue Lake Road in St. George. I'm the president of the Federated Women's Institutes of Canada, also known as FWIC WI Canada. Lynn McLean, our president-elect, is joining us online from Nova Scotia, and Linda Mason is our treasurer. She's joining us online from Alberta. And Nancy Karuba, the Adelaide Hunter Hoodless Homestead Museum Manager, is present with me today. I'd like to take this moment to thank Mayor Bailey and the councillors for their encouragement and support since the homestead was taken off the market. We sincerely appreciate the emergency funding, small grants, and providing connections to all other organizations. The county staff, as always, have been a big help and support as we work together trying to make the homestead a sustainable place. We have made the budget as lean as it can be. However, continually looking for ways to keep the bills paid and hiring term staff has just kept the place going but does, excuse me, does not allow us to develop a long-range plan of activities. In March of 2023, we hired Nancy Karuba, a resident of the County of Brant, to manage the museum, and look at what she has done. Nancy has done a wonderful job of bringing programming and community partnerships to the museum, but it is difficult to make long-term plans while continually struggling to become sustainable. So at this point, I would like to introduce Nancy, who will give our presentation. This is the button I'm going to use to.
Okay. Hello, everyone. Thank you, Margaret. I'm happy to be with you tonight to talk about the homestead and Adelaide. There we go. Adelaide Hunter Hoodless was a Brant County. Oh, I'm sorry. I should say my name is Nancy Karuba, and I'm a resident of St. George. I live on Hawk Street. So Adelaide Hunter Hoodless was a Brant County woman who ended up being a woman, one of the most eminent citizens in Canada, one of the most eminent historical figures. And she had a big life and made a big impact. The 4 points that you'll see on the bullets of the slide in front of you are her most famous accomplishments. It was after the death of her infant son John from milk contamination that Adelaide began a public life of education and social reform. She was instrumental with the Women's Institutes in providing a resolution to the Canadian government requesting that milk be pasteurized in Canada as a legal requirement. Adelaide accomplished these things in a day when it was radical to do so, 20 years before women even had the right to vote in Ontario. She was revolutionary. She founded institutions that taught nutrition, food safety, frugality, and how to safeguard our families from the tragedy that struck hers. To this day, the homestead is a safe and wholesome community meeting space. Amongst other things, we offer modern-day homesteading workshops to celebrate her legacy, and we'd love to continue to do so. We're located in St. George. It is the birthplace and childhood home of Adelaide. The homestead was declared a National Historic Site. The issues that we're going to talk about today have tremendous depth, but we will just do an overview in the interest of time, and we'll be happy to answer questions at the end of the slides. The Federated Women's Institute of Canada is a not-for-profit charitable organization, and as such, we exist on donations and funding and grants and the revenue that we can glean from our museum and our community events. We typically operate at a deficit, and today we are seeking stable, sustainable annual support from our county. We know that through the Government of Ontario studies, communities rich in heritage and culture provide an overall improved well-being for communities like ours. Heritage and culture are also the cornerstone of tourism in Brant County. And this year at the homestead, our guest book represents visitors from 7 different countries across the world and all of the provinces across Canada. Here is a virtual tour of, I don't know if I click this, is it going to activate? Not sure how to. Yeah, oh, it's from the PDF, so I'm sorry you might not see it. It is a virtual tour that is available on our website in English and in French. And it really just gives you a glimpse of the homestead and what it looks like. It is full of artifacts that beautifully depict life in the mid-1800s. We'd love for you to come and see it in person. We start the tour with some information about the family and the property and the history, and it's really very enjoyable. People love it. So come if you can. We'd love to have you. We plan for our future viability and success, and in order to do so, we have a committee of local volunteers, some of who are here tonight, that bring business acumen and community support experience. And together, we actively work towards the center goal on this schematic, which is the sustainability of the homestead. We focus on the 5 surrounding pillars to help us do so. In the interest of time, I'll mention just 3. One of them is community involvement and partnering with other not-for-profits. And this year we've had success in doing so in our Culture Day celebrations, in our fundraising efforts, and in our community events. We have partnered with the South Dumfries Historical Society, the Brant Theatre Workshop, ARC, Art in Rural Communities, the Paris Quilting Guild, just to mention a few. The bottom right-hand pillar is around gaining sustainable and predictable funding from our local government, which is why we're here today, but it's also around honing our skills at grant applications. We're working really hard to submit high-scoring applications to increase our likelihood of being awarded some of the grants that we apply for. And the bottom left-hand pillar is around partnerships and sponsorships with organizations like the School Board, the Victorian Order of Nurses, YMCA, and University of Guelph, those organizations for which we are affiliated through Adelaide's Legacy. We're working on a communication plan to approach them for sponsorships just now. And so the committee is really happy with the progress that we're making and excited about what we can accomplish together in the future. Here's a brief look at financials. Our fiscal year is from April 1st to March the 31st. We have applied for all the grants that we're eligible for, and we will continue to do so. As mentioned earlier, most years we run at a deficit. In the year ending 2022, we did not have a deficit, we posted a profit, and that's because we received emergency funds and county help to help us correct for the impact of COVID. This year, we are not closed yet, but we are trending at a deficit of approximately $20,000. As you can see from the slide, the last reported fiscal year, we show a deficit of $9,731. And you can see the funding we received from the county as well. Our budget is lean, we operate efficiently. We also receive non-financial support from the county in ways that are really important to us as well. We receive training from the county. We go to networking events that are really very valuable for us, if only for us to compare best practices with other museums and galleries. We also benefit from the employee support that we have, particularly Kayla Cheechman has been so beneficial to us, and our Ward 1 counselors, Jennifer Kyle, and specifically Councillor John McAlpine, whose support we have benefited from greatly. All of the county support that you have made is an investment in the homestead, and it is valued and appreciated. Here's what we have done with it, and here's what we plan to do next. You can see some of these pictures and feel the energy. You know, the homestead has been buzzing with the energy that feels like progress, which is really great. While our request for secure funding today is a really critical need, there's just such a good story to tell here. Since April 2023, we've offered 40 community events. Our Easter event brings over 500 participants. We had a Culture Day event that was held by the Minery Enterprise that brought over 300 people to that event. These pics are from smaller events, some smaller events that we've had. We have an outdoor pavilion that seats 60. We have on-site free parking. We have accessible outdoor washrooms and indoor washrooms and accessible meeting space. And we are on 3 acres laid to lawn in a beautiful rustic rural setting. Indoors, our nationally designated museum holds 7 rooms with historical artifacts where we hold heritage displays and conduct museum tours. There's also an education center where we have our workshops, and we even rent the museum space for meetings and dinners. The historical heritage setting of the museum really adds something, a special feature to any occasion. Moving forward, we plan on bringing larger events to the homestead and to the site so that we can gain increased revenue. It's really important that we retain quality staff. We know that it's a common challenge amongst all not-for-profits to retain quality staff, but it is fair to say that that challenge is heightened in our case because there has been a risk of closure, and the continuity of employment is important for everyone. Our most important deliverable is to secure predictable funding for our future. We do look forward with enthusiasm, and I brought the winter schedule with me that I can pass around. It's just been published, and it includes events for seniors and children and families, creative writing, quilting a sampler for the Grand River Quilting Project, and planting a sustainable vegetable garden for the spring are some of the activities that we have lined up. It's also great that we're open all year long. Not all museum and galleries are. We're open all year long, and we run events right through the winter as well. And so in closing, I'd like to say thank you very much for considering the request to be an annual line item on the County of Brant budget in the amount of $30,000. It will allow us to do all of the things that we've talked about this evening. And it will most of all allow us to confidently plan for our future and the rental of our facilities, knowing that we'll be open and staffed to deliver on those commitments. We're fortunate enough to have Addie's legacy as part of our Brant community story. Fortunate enough to have a nationally designated historic site in our county. We're asking for sustainable, predictable annual funding to secure the homestead for our community. Thank you, and we'd be happy to answer any questions just now.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Does the committee have, or council have any questions to the delegation? Councillor McAlpine?
Yeah, I just want to say how much the community is starting to realize what a hub this potential it has, and how you've reached out and partnered with other groups, and that's really, I think, made a big difference. And I really hope that the committee here sees fit to fill this request for the 30,000. Something that's in the process, and it's been in the process for a couple of years, is the arts and cultural and heritage strategy. And if you don't mind, Kayla's here, and maybe she could talk just briefly about how the Adelaide will fit into that process.
Yes, thank you. Through you, Mayor Bailey. So next month, I will be coming forward with the Arts, Culture, Heritage Strategy. And this presentation tonight definitely aligns with a lot of the work that we're doing in support for the museums. So we do have a piece in there that we really identified supporting the museums with a little bit more than just the grant, but that operating budget is something we want to investigate. We were able to look at other communities that are similar size, also Brantford, who has a National Historic Site, to really look at what their operating costs are and how they approach museums. I myself have worked for 6 municipalities in museums too, and have seen different structures. And we haven't suggested having a municipally funded museum in our strategy, but we have decided that we really want to support the great museums we have in our community to continue to be strong and sustainable. So for example, on the low end, Bell Homestead National Historic Site, they spend $199,400 a year, so close to $200,000 just to keep that site open from municipal council approved funding. It goes right up to $1.8 million for similar communities. So we don't think we need to make that big of an investment. I think that $30,000 seems like a fair assessment based off what the strategy will support moving forward, but I think it definitely aligns with what we're looking to do to be able to provide more training, support, and a little bit of funding to keep the lights on. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Garneau.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. If I can ask the representatives from the delegation, please. The building itself is historic, and in looking at the budget that's prepared tonight, whether there's any major capital expenditures that are on the forecast or maintenance issues that maybe haven't been identified but are also in the pipeline, putting pressure on the organization, please.
There are a couple of capital expenses that may be coming up. We have a well that may need to be redone, so that's probably around $3,000 for that. Some of our accessible accessories, our accessibility to the building needs to be, the ramp needs to be fixed, so there are a few capital expenses that way. And the furnace is old, so I don't know how long that is going to last. But other than that, we have received some grants from Hamilton Halton Brant. That we've got the new roof is on there. The county has helped us with a portion of that to help do the roof on the building itself and the pavilion. We've updated the outside washroom. It used to be 2 washrooms. It's now 1, but it is more accessible. And we've done what else did we do? Oh, we expanded the driveway so we could have buses come in to do tours. So there's a lot of things that we have done, and anything that's of a capital nature are things that we might not be able to predict today.
Thank you. Councillor Chambers.
Thank you. Through you, Mr. Mayor, to anyone that wants to answer. I'm looking at the schedule of events, and I'm kind of intrigued here, particularly with this Valentine's Day Italian lunch and cooking demo with acoustic guitar and music by Jim Young. And if you go, you get a 3-course Italian themed lunch with a glass of wine, a rose, and live music. If I hadn't have gotten this tonight, I would know absolutely nothing about that. So my question is, how does someone like me that lives out on the Fairfield Road in the middle of nowhere find out about the events that you put forward?
Yeah, thanks for that question. That's something that we're working on and recognize we really want to cast a wider net. At the moment, we're able to utilize all of the promotional avenues that are free. And so you could look on our Facebook page, you could look on our Adelaide Hunter Hoodless Homestead website or the Federated Women's Institute website. We put things on the Brant County community events page as well. And we have Facebook pages, both for Adelaide and a local Facebook page in St. George. And then physically, I make a poster up and put it at the library and the grocery store and the bank and anywhere people will let me tape something to their walls.
And I'm sure our library system would help with getting the word out.
Yeah, that's a really good point because we now have a writer in residence and we're doing some creative writing workshops and some storytelling. So that would be a really logical place.
Councillor Bell?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you to our delegation. I'm looking at your revenue and expenditure spreadsheet. There's a big item called HST rebate that you don't seem to have realised yet. When you've asked for $30,000, is that rebate taken into account?
We've actually received a portion of that, so the updated expenditures, let me just see. So there's a non-recoverable portion of that, which is $7,708. So that HST rebate was from the Hamilton-Halton grant. So we had to put a portion forward, and so we do only get a portion back. Okay. Did that answer your question?
Almost.
Okay.
Through you, Mr. Mayor. Now, I understand how you can only claim a portion of the HST back, but my question is, when you came to a number of $30,000,
so
how did you arrive at it?
Okay.
Let me ask that question.
Okay. So if you looked at the budget, you could see what we've paid out and what we are expecting. And right now, to the actuals to December 31st, we are looking at a net loss of $18,719, and we still have 3 months to add on to that. So we have January, February, and March. So we're not going to be getting a lot of money coming back in. And the HST that has been paid out was actually paid out by the Federated Women's Institutes of Canada. Okay.
Councillor Oakley.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I have 2 quick questions, one for the delegation, one for Kayla. First to the delegation. I see in here that you have County Brant operating grants, event grants, and capital grants. And when I told those all up, I get around $8,600. And here you have on the slide $16,000. Is there a reason for the differential, or are we missing something here?
So, okay, could you repeat? I'm sorry. Could you please repeat that question?
Yes. So in the Excel spreadsheet provided, you have County Brant operating grant was $2,230. The capital grant was $3,500. The events grant was $2,900, and then there is an additional Brant County Museum event grant that's $3,200. All that adds up to about $12,000. And in the financials on your slide here, you have $16,250 from the county.
I'm going to, if you don't mind, I'm going to refer to Linda Mason, who is our treasurer. Linda, if you could answer that question for me, please.
Okay, so you are looking at the budgeted amount, and of course, a budget is an estimate. The actual to October, to the end of October, is the amount that you're stating that we have received so far. We actually have received the HST back. So there is an amount on there, but we didn't receive it until December. So the budget to actual is only until the end of October. We were hoping to get more funding, but so far this is what we have received up to the end of October.
Is that answering your question? Because I'm not sure that it is.
Not precisely, but I will follow up with an email.
Okay.
If that works. And then through you, Mr. Mayor, just to Kayla, I just had a quick question, and I'm sure we'll get into it more when the arts, culture, and heritage strategy comes forward, but since it's relevant now, as part of that, is there an overall strategy for funding to go to these facilities, or are we looking at doing it piecemeal?
Yes, so that is included. So we have included, the line is we will be investigating opportunities to provide ongoing funding streams to participating museums beyond the Brant community grants. And participating communities is, we're going to have a level of training that they need to be part of, just so that we get a good return on our investment as well, that we're meeting museum standards. I think with the new strategy too, we'll be having better marketing strategies for museums. That's a big piece of it. Also, I will be doing 4 times a year a grant summary, so we know both municipal level, we can be strong in those, provincial and federal, so that they'll have that dispersed funding as well. So there's a lot more supports to streamline the whole process for all museums. So this is just an example, but we have spoke to everyone as we've really created the strategy. And like I said, we've looked to other communities. We've had a really good consultant helping us get to this point, and I think we'll have a really nice streamlined process that we don't have to invest a lot in, but we'll get a lot of return. So.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thanks.
Are there any other questions for the delegation? Seeing none, thank you. Thank you for coming out tonight. Thank you, Kayla. What does council want to do? Councilor McAlpine?
I'd like to make a motion, the wording might not be quite right here, but that we move the request from Adelaide Thunder Homestead to be considered in the decision packages of the Committee of the Whole meeting on Thursday, February 1st, 2024.
Seeking a seconder. Councillor Oakley is going to second that. Are there any questions to Councillor McAlpine's direction? Seeing none, call the vote. All those in favor? Opposed? And carried. Thank you. We're going to move on now to 5.2 on the agenda, which is the ladies from the hospice. And again, you have 10 minutes for your presentation. And then we're going to open it up. We'll open it up for questions.
Good evening, Mayor Bailey and County Councillors. My name is Julie Powell. I am with St. Joseph's Life Care Foundation, located in Brantford on 99 Wayne Gretzky Parkway. Our foundation is responsible for raising funds in the community to support Stedman Community Hospice, as well as St. Joseph's Life Care Center, long-term care home. Karen Candy is joining me this evening, and I'll let her introduce herself a little bit later. I wanted to tell you a little bit about the hospice. I know most of you are familiar with the hospice, but we have 10 beds at our hospice, and we provide care to those at end of life. We also have a community outreach program for those who wish to remain at home and receive care in their own home. We also have many programs and services such as grief and bereavement, spiritual care, pet therapy, and we provide care for individuals within the City of Brantford, County of Brant, as well as surrounding communities. So just a few stats to share with you, and I'll just highlight a couple of them here tonight. The number of deaths, so we had 155 deaths at the hospice last year. That is just within the hospice. That does not account for those individuals that we support in the community through community outreach. 16% of those individuals that received care within the hospice were actually from Brant County. Again, I'll just highlight a couple of the facts that are on the screen here today. Hospice is free of charge for patients and families, and I think that comes as a surprise to a lot of people in the community. The hospice costs approximately $3.2 million per year to operate it, and $1.4 million of that actually comes from the community through donations. So what do donations fund? So they fund frontline nursing care, so both those nurses in the hospice as well as out in the community. It funds grief and bereavement and spiritual care programs. It funds the gardens at hospice. It funds food, so food for patients, a coffee and a baked good for family members, funds housekeeping, funds new beds, new equipment within the hospice. So I'm going to share a story with you tonight about a couple of residents who were from the county of Brant. Karen and Larry Clarkson, husband and wife, both from Paris. Both received hospice outreach care for many years. Larry spent his final day in Stedman Community Hospice, and Karen spent her final 2 weeks within hospice. And this story is told by their daughter, Nicole. Let's see if we can get this to play for you.
Somebody once told me that we die how we live. My parents, Larry and Karen Clarkson, their life together really started at a young age. They actually met in middle school. They were married for 44 years. Although a lot of people from the outside looking in would really see maybe not how they actually fit together because they had a lot of differences. My dad was very, very outgoing. He was always the first to be on the dance floor. My mom, definitely a little bit more reserved and shy. You really didn't get to see her true self until you really got to know her. But in all their differences, they had a lot of similarities that really made them a really great team. They were very family-centric, loyal, incredibly loyal. They were the first to raise their hand and be there to support you. They were also incredible planners. Them being both very practical, they started to talk about what that end-of-life journey would look like. They knew that Stedman Hospice was going to be a part of that journey. Both my mom and dad wanted to be at home for as long as they possibly could. And we wouldn't have been able to do that without the support of community outreach and the partnerships that they have in the community with nursing and the drugstores and PSWs. The Stedman Community Hospice is a beautiful home. It's a beautiful house. But a house is just a physical structure. What really makes it beautiful is the people, so the nurses, the doctors, whether they're doing community outreach or whether they're doing inpatient care. It's the grief and bereavement coordinators or spiritual specialists that are assisting the patients, their family members, their loved ones, and guiding them through this very difficult journey. It's the volunteers that are, brewing coffee or making sure that, a family member hasn't forgot to have something to eat that day. That's what makes this place truly, truly special. And we're so fortunate as a community to have access to a different way of end-of-life care.
So this evening we're asking you to consider the same as what we asked you last year. It's to consider funding for Stedman Community Hospice of $100,000 to support both our hospice, inpatient, as well as our community outreach program.
Thanks, Julie. Good evening, everyone. My name is Karen Candy. I'm the Vice President of the Campus of Care at St. Joe's, which includes both the hospice and the long-term care home. And I echo Julie's thanks for allowing us to come and chat with you tonight. I live on Rathbun Place in Brantford, and I'm a lifelong resident of the area. Our Life Care Center is the largest home in the area. We have 205 beds. We are one of 2 not-for-profit homes in the area as well, with John Noble Home being the other. I think one of the things that we're most proud of is the trust our families put in us to deliver good quality care and look after their loved ones like they would. And I think that's demonstrated in our satisfaction surveys. We scored over 95% from satisfaction with our residents and their families. Quick overview. Just some vital stats, a couple of points to pay attention to. Under grief and bereavement services and long-term care, there are none at the present moment. And to Julie's point about the number of deaths that occur every year, and I think it's important to note that research has indicated and told us that for every death, it impacts at least 5 people. And I would actually argue even more. But when you think of the impact that has on a community, it's quite significant. So why we're here to talk about the support that we're asking for our long-term care home. We are a proud member of the St. Joseph's Health System, but as a partner, the system guides us in mission, vision, strategic planning, some of our culture or values, but there's no funding that is attached with that. And as a not-for-profit home like John Noble Home, our funding is the same, and our needs are the same. And in this current climate and where we're at in a post-COVID world, that funding just doesn't meet all of the expenses that we're faced with rising costs. But at St. Joe's Life Care Centre, we believe in improving palliative care experiences, whether it's 2 months to live at hospice or whether it's 2 years with us in our long-term care home. I think when we look at how we can improve those palliative care experiences, I wanted to share a quick story. My mother 2 years ago was in long-term care, and when her time came at end of life, of course, my siblings and I wanted to spend every last minute with her, and so we wanted to stay overnight. But there was nothing for us to sleep on. It would have been the floor. Family quickly and friends rallied and found us some lounge chairs and some lawn chairs. But in order to spend that weekend with my mom, there wasn't anything available. We think we can do better to lessen the burden on families and allow families that precious quality of time. The other piece back to that notion of around zero bereavement and grief support. Having your loved one enter long-term care is incredibly difficult. There's grief, there's fear, there's guilt associated with that. And we believe it's important to support the families that are supporting the residents as well. So we would like to provide that important grief and bereavement support to our families in long-term care as well. We all know the support would improve and increase mental health, and we all know the challenges every community is facing with mental health. So what your donation would help us do, we're hoping to provide sleeper recliner chairs on each of our units so that absolutely at end of life, but certainly if someone wanted to have a sleepover with mom or grandma or grandpa, that we had some sort of means of allowing them to do that comfortably. And secondly, we would like to be offering a grief and bereavement and some more support to families entering long-term care to help ease that burden of guilt. Did you want to talk the last one? Or, okay. So for the long-term care home, we are hoping to and asking for support for $50,000 to be able to purchase those sleeper recliners for our units, as well as get a grief and bereavement support group up and running for our families at long-term care. Thank you. And I think Julie and I, either one, would be happy to answer any questions.
Well, thank you for your presentations. Are there any questions from council? I think we're all familiar with the good you do for the community, so thank you for that. Thank you. Council, what do you want to do with this, Councillor Oakley?
Through you, Mayor Bailey, I move that we receive this presentation as information and refer it to our 2024 budget process.
Seeking a seconder, Councillor Coleman. Any other comments or discussion? Seeing none, we'll call the vote. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
which brings us to 5.3 on the agenda, which is Alma. Do you want to come up and give us your address, please?
Oh, thank you. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, Mayor Bailey. My name is Alma Arosa, and this is my husband, Dinesh. We reside in 2 Mimi Court, Mount Pleasant, and I am here today. This is my first council meeting, so if my presentation seems a bit scattered, excuse me. I stand here today on behalf of animal lovers who have a similar passion such as mine of working with animals while opening their homes to provide them with a loving and caring environment while their owners are at work or away on vacation. I would like to shed some light on the compelling advantages of in-home boarding versus traditional kennel-style boarding, emphasizing the positive impact on our city's well-being. In-home boarding provides a personalized and stress-free environment for pets, reducing anxiety and promoting them with overall happiness. For example, we do have a lot of we do have a lot of dogs who have come to us during the times of COVID. Parents have taken them in during COVID because they were lonely and alone and they were working from home. Now that they have to go back to work, they have no other choice. They've been called to come back to work at least twice or thrice a week, and they have no other choice but to leave them in boarding facilities. However, these dogs, they do not mingle or socialize. They have no socialization skills with other dogs. So when they go to a boarding facility and they are left there with about 20, 30, 40 dogs, they don't know how to socialize, they don't know how to communicate with them, and they end up in trouble. We recently had a dog that came to us from a boarding that was bitten badly, had a really traumatic experience, and the parents wanted to come to us to make the dog better because we only take, we have to follow the bylaw and we only take about 3 dogs in a home so we can cater to their personal needs. Do you have anything to say about it? Okay. All right. So by choosing in-home boarding, we support a local and personalized service that not only enhances the well-being of our beloved pets, but also contributes to a stronger sense of community. In our city, there are so many dog boarding facilities where dogs spend the day confined in crates, often receiving inadequate treatment when their owners are away. Consequently, pet parents are increasingly opting for in-home boarding, where dogs enjoy a cage-free environment and are treated as cherished pets rather than just mere animals. Lately, residents of the county of Brant have shown a growing preference for using the application Rover, which is a dog sitting application. Sitters on Rover can either care for the dog in their homes or provide services at the owner's residence, all arranged for a mutually agreed upon fee. Rover has facilitated the connection between pet owners and animal enthusiasts while willing to open their homes to dogs instead of putting them in kennel accommodations. We recently, so the recent example for this one is the boarding institution that shut down in Brantford. There was a boarding institution recently that shut down overnight. Parents were not given any prior notice. They had taken the dogs to the boarding before they had to go to work, and the doors were closed. They were clueless, and they went on to Rover, the application. They found out who was available. I had like at least 5 or 6 parents messaging me at 7 o'clock in the morning asking if I'm available, but of course I can only take up to 3 dogs according to bylaw. So I did reach out to a few more Rover sitters who I'm in good contact with, and they helped take the dogs. So all of these dogs were catered to within a matter of few minutes that morning when the boarding facility shut down without any prior notice. Another major aspect that will help the residents of the county of Brant is that since the boarding facilities operate within limited hours, dog parents going on vacation find themselves dealing with inconvenient drop-off and pickup schedules. In contrast, the flexibility of in-home boarding appeals to them, eliminating the need to adhere to set timings for picking up and dropping off their pets. I do have a lot of, the example for this is I do have a lot of parents who go on vacations for 10 days, 20 days, a month, and they come back in the middle of the night, or either they have to take an early morning flight or come back in the middle of the night. They really miss their pet after so many days of vacation, and they want to see the dog straight away. So they just message me, hey, can I just come and pick up my dog? You know, is it okay for you? I really miss him. I want to see him. And we've catered to parents who've come at 1 a.m. and 2 a.m. to pick up dogs, which a boarding facility will not be able to accommodate, as it's more of a 9 to 5 situation. In-home boarding has proven advantages for the County of Brant and its residents, providing a comfortable and assurance for their dogs receiving care mirroring the comfort of home. Additionally, it acts as a draw for dog owners from other cities as they are willing to travel to a secure and trustworthy caregiver for their beloved four-legged companions. For instance, I care for numerous dogs whose owners commute from downtown Toronto, seeking to offer their pets a countryside vacation experience with ample land for running and playing. These dogs, accustomed to condo living, find joy in the open spaces and freedom during their stay that the country offers. All the pet parents have praised my decision to reside in the county of Brant and pursue my passion for working with animals. I do get a lot of dogs from different cities around Ontario, mainly from downtown Toronto and Scarborough, as they don't have much land to run around. The backyards are really small, the houses are really small, and I've gotten so many dogs from there. I do ask the parents sometimes, like, you can't find sitters on Rover like around your area. When they go and see the houses there, it's pretty much the same house that they have, and they want the dogs to have more of a backyard space. They want the dogs to have more of a communication with other dogs and all of that. Through in-home boarding, we offer personalized care tailored for elderly and visually impaired dogs. This involves providing them with a safe space and offering special attention, an aspect that boarding facilities managing numerous dogs will not be able to cater. I do have this, an example for this is I do have this blind husky. He was born visually impaired, and he used to go to a boarding facility before where he would just be put in a corner because all the other dogs, it would be too overwhelming for him to have so many dogs to play with. The parents did find me on Rover, and they came up to me. The dog is the most social dog. We do have a pen drive with a bunch of pictures. If possible, we can put that and show it to you. He's the most most social dog that I've ever seen. It's just that his personality needed to come out in a more home style environment rather than a boarding facility. Finally, I conclude my speech by saying, let us prioritize the welfare of both our residents and their four-legged family members by endorsing the benefits of in-home boarding. As our furry companions thrive, so do their owners, the residents of the country of Brant. Thank you.
Thank you for your presentation. Are there any questions of clarity to the delegation? Councillor Miller?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. You said the limit 3 is that something that is acceptable?
Yes, according to the bylaw, you can take up to only 3 dogs.
Okay.
And even on the Rover application, up to only 3 dogs are allowed because it is said that a person's attention span can only be within the 3 dogs. So even the application, for example, if more than 3 dogs are booked, the application will not allow you to go further with it.
Okay, so you're here tonight again just to raise awareness of this type of business.
Just to make this more legal, because we did have an incident recently where we had a bylaw officer come by telling us that this was not legal in the county of Brant, which was very surprising to me because one of the reasons that we got the house there was because we wanted to cater to this kind of need. I've been doing this for the last 2 years, ever since I moved to Canada, and I haven't had any problems with this. But he told us that this was not allowed, which was very surprising. I did have a conversation with Mayor Bailey a few weeks ago, and he had told me to raise the awareness in a council meeting, and that is why I'm here.
Okay, thank you.
Are there any other questions? As the delegation stated, we have had a meeting, and in the meeting we had bylaw and we had zoning, and we're still working on it. And I'm glad you did come tonight. With that being said, I'm looking for a motion to take it back to staff. Councillor Bell? Seeking a seconder? Councillor Chambers? Because we do have an open file now on the concerns, and the concerns are in zoning and our bylaws, so we are working on it now. So I think it's good that you've brought it to our attention, and with that being said, all those in favor? Opposed? And thank you for coming in tonight.
Thank you.
Takes us to number 6 on the agenda, which is the adoption of the minutes from the previous meetings. Councillor Chambers?
Yeah, the minutes are moved by myself and seconded by Councillor Oakley. I've got them somewhere, but that's the gist of it.
Thank you.
The 19th and the 21st, 2023 minutes of council and special council. Moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Oakley.
You make it seem so simple. All those in favor? Opposed and carried. Is there any business arising from the very simple minutes? Councillor Bell?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I have a very simple question. On item 7.2.9 of our minutes of the 19th of December, I'll just read it. It says, in response to questions, Heather Boyd confirmed that the 2023 surplus will go toward the new library build. And I would just like to ask Heather whether that conflicts with an answer she gave to one of our residents the other day in respect of where surpluses from 2023 would go.
Ms. Boyd.
I believe the surplus I was referring to in those minutes was the library surplus, not the overall county surplus.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions to the minutes? Seeing none, all those in favor? Opposed? Carried. Takes us to 8.1, which is consent items to be approved. Councillor Oakley, you have those.
Moved by myself and seconded by Councillor Bell that the amended draft terms of reference for the Joint City-County Shared Services Committee be approved, and that the amended terms of reference be forwarded to the City of Brantford for approval.
Are there any questions about that, or any questions to Allison? Councillor Bell?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor, through you to Alison. In respect of clause 11 in the draft that you've given us, item A, it says, if shared, would improve the financial condition of both municipalities. I'd like to see somewhere the word equitable, so that if the city puts in more, they get more. If we put in more, we get more. I'm not looking for 50-50, but I think it ought to be equitable distribution of any financial benefits.
Do you want to speak to that, Alison?
Through your worship, I think that would be acceptable and we can make that change.
Are there any other concerns or changes you want made to the proposed Joint Services, Shared Services Committee terms of reference? Noting Councillor Bell's change there, which I'm going to note. Is there anything else you want to separate or talk about? Seeing none, call the vote. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. Eight point two on the agenda is the consent items to be received. Councillor Bell, you have those.
Yes, moved by myself and seconded by Councillor McAlpine that items 8.2.1 to 8.2.15 be received as information.
Noting that number 16 on your agenda, if you have that copy of the agenda, was just a duplicate, so there are only 15. Does anyone want anything separated? Councillor Bell.
If I could separate the item from Brantford City Council and the Social Services minute. I think it's 8.2.5, but I don't have it directly in front of me.
It's 7, Councillor Bell.
7,
that's good.
thank you.
Anybody else want anything else separated? Okay, we're going to vote on everything but 7. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. Councillor Bell, do you want to speak to number 7?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. If you can look to page 103 of our report, and which for the benefit of the listening community, it is page 103 of 685, just to give it a bit of dimension. On item F, on the annual update on housing development, item F says that the housing financing plan be, as detailed in this report, be approved, subject to both municipalities' budget processes. So my first question is then to, I think through Alison, maybe to Heather, how are we dealing with that in our municipal budget process?
Through you, Your Worship, I have spoken with the CAO of the city regarding this question, and at this time, it is not a specific ask. It is an estimate of what we can expect to pay as those builds happen. However, it is not an ask that's being directed to the county at this time. So each municipality will have to come up with its own funding structure for affordable housing. Ours may differ from the cities. But that is an estimate that they're putting forward for future costs.
Yeah, thank you for that. So following on from that, if I may, Mr. Mayor, so Alison, what are we doing to create the equivalent structure to what the city have? Because if you look further into this report, they've actually articulated line by line how they'll achieve their 57 or 58 million contribution. How will we achieve our 23 or 28 million, depending on which figure you take? How do we achieve that? And where do we see it in this year's budget and capital forecast?
Through your worship, so you may recall that we put a motion forward, I believe it was about 3 or 4 years ago, where a portion of any of our properties which were disposed of, a portion of that would go into an affordable housing reserve. Heather may be able to speak to where that reserve sits at the moment, but I think we do need to report back. I think it's timely that we report back this year and examine what other tools we're going to have to use to meet the gap that I'm sure is there between the funding that we know we're going to have in the future and what we have currently.
I don't have the number we have in our affordable housing plan on me. Well, I could look it up, but I didn't have quite enough time to do that. I know there is absolutely going to be a very significant gap between what they say we need and what we have currently in that reserve. Some of the things that we are going to have to look at is some of the projects that we're looking at possible partnerships with, how they contribute towards that and might help reduce our costs. And there will certainly have to be some planning put forward probably through the long-term financial plan that will look into future years, because it won't be a 2024 cost. The projects we have currently going on aren't going to be done this year, but there will certainly be a future cost to this.
And if I may, one more comment, Mr. Mayor. On page 111 of our report, where it looks at how the remaining 286 units will be apportioned, 3 of the blocks of 50 units each are indicated as final site to be determined - county. So I think it would be appropriate if at some point in time staff could come back and give us their suggestions as to how we might achieve that. I think there are some ideas already on the table. I know that, but it would be good, I think, to see how we would achieve 150, or if we can't, what we would do about it.
Councillor McAlpine.
This is just a small correction I think needs to be made, but I just want clarification on it. On page 168, the potential development locations, we have down here 26 Park Ave, St. George. I believe you meant 26 Park Ave, Burford. Is that correct?
I believe it's Burford.
Yeah, I think if I may, Mr. Mayor, I think we made that correction. It obviously hasn't been caught, John, but in social services we pointed that out as well.
Oh, okay, thanks.
So one more final thing, if I may, Mr. Mayor, that item I on page 103, City Clerk was directed to invite MPP Will Baumer and MP Larry Brock to our next meeting. I got it confirmed today that Larry Brock will attend our next meeting, which is on February the 5th, I think, or 6th. So if anybody has anything they would like to have me share with him, question of him, in relation to this subject, and it's not an open book for everything, but in relation to affordable housing, please let me know. Thank you.
Any other questions? Seeing none, we'll take the vote on 8.2.7. All those in favor? Opposed and carried. Committee reports. 9.1, which is Planning and Development Committee report. Councillor McAlpine.
Moved by myself and seconded by Councillor Bell that the Planning and Development Committee report of January 9th, 2024 be approved.
Thank you. Does anyone have any questions to Councillor McAlpine on his report? Seeing none, all those in favor to receive the report? Opposed? Carried. (9.2) is the Administration and Operations Committee report, and that, I'm sorry? Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Government Relations Committee report, which is 9.2, and that's Councillor Kyle.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. Moved by myself and seconded by Councillor Garneau that the Government Relations Committee report of January 15th, 2024 be approved.
Thank you. Are there any questions to Councillor Kyle on the report? Seeing
I think it's a great structure we've created, so I'm really happy that we've done this. I think it worked well in Roma. I think we put up a good show there this time round. In respect of the Good Roads Conference, there's a delegation aimed at the Ministry of Long-Term Care in relation to John Noble Home expansion. I'm not quite sure I understand that. Maybe Councillor McAlpine as Vice Chair can let me know what that means.
I think that will, I wasn't aware of it either, but until I read the report. But I would believe it's because of the cutbacks in funding. So we're only receiving a 1% increase per year, and so that's starting to affect the budget. So I think it would be a request for increased funding.
Sorry, if I may, that's not to do with the home extension. That's generally to do with the home operation, which I fully support.
Yeah. So.
Councillor McAlpine, I think they're having a hard time hearing you.
Oh, okay. Anyway, I think it would be just a general update, I guess, with the province of how things are progressing. Continued support for the expansion, I guess.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Seeing none, all those in favor? Opposed? And carried. Now we're at 9.3, Administration and Operations Committee report. Councillor McAlpine.
Moved by myself and second by Councillor Chambers that the Administration and Operations Committee report of January 16th, 2024 be approved.
Are there any questions to the report? Councillor Coleman.
Separate number 8.
Separate number 8. Anything else to be separated? Seeing none, we're going to vote on everything but number 8. All those in favor to receive? Opposed? Thank you. And we're going to talk about number 8.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And maybe it didn't need to be separated, but I guess for some more clarification, and this is directed to General Manager Walton. Property on 13th concession, number 29. Is this all included in the study? That whole property?
Through the mayor to Councillor Coleman, the property reference in the Scotland boundary is part of the study, yes.
Councillor Coleman?
I do have some concerns, and I guess the one reason the concern is that the property owner has gone to LPAC on this, and I do know that they want to work with us and whatnot, but I just hope that since his application's been in a number of years, how much will this delay him getting to the objective of building houses?
Pam, can you answer that?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, to Councillor Coleman. I think I speak on behalf of Operations and Development Services when I say we're committed to working with that developer. We are still waiting on complete applications and studies from them, so we can combine our works together.
Any other questions to Councillor Coleman's concerns? Seeing none, we'll vote on number 8. All those in favor? Opposed and carried. Which takes us to number 10 on the agenda, which is staff reports 10.1, and that is Mr. Walton.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I just have a couple of comments to make about appointments of quarter revisions. We did put a statement at the end of there of whether or not council would like us to do a future report on setting a long-term quarter revision or not. There are several options for that. Most municipalities that I've dealt with in the past, back when I was in consulting, do have members of council on the quarter revisions exclusively. There are a few municipalities which have lay members appointed to it. That certainly does create a lot of work, because then there has to be a lot of training or whatever done for that, and they would be paid to undertake that role as well. So I would just ask council if they want to us to go through the work of putting a report together to do this, or whether each time we have a quarter revision we bring this simple report. This simple report is not a lot of work, but we do need to do it every time we bring forward a quarter revision. There's a few coming up this year.
Any direction for Mr. Walton? Well, Councillor Chambers.
I was just going to make a comment that I believe the Drainage Act allows for up to 5 members of council to be appointed to the Court of Revision. If you're suggesting that a Court of Revision be appointed and that Court of Revision used for different drainage reports, then perhaps we should be contemplating appointing 5, and then perhaps on some sort of a rotational basis, or a whatever 3 be appointed for each something to that effect, because if we only appoint 3, depending on when and where and what, there may be quorum issues.
Alicia? Oh, I'm sorry, Rob?
Through the mayor to Councillor Chambers, that's a very good idea, and that's what we would suggest if we did do this. You actually only have to have quorum there, so we could appoint 5, and as long as we could get 3 to the court, then it would be fine. So that is certainly is an option.
Councillor Coleman?
No, I was just ready to put my name forward.
All right, well, that's good, because I'm going to look for 5 names now. I'm hoping to get 5 volunteers. I have Councillor Garneau, Councillor Coleman, Councillor Miller, Councillor Bell, looking for 1 more, Councillor McAlpine. Yeah, so yeah. Okay, Mr. Walton.
Through the mayor to council, it is fine to appoint 5 for this, but I think that we would have to bring back a future report to actually set the permanent one, which is fine too. We're glad to do both.
I think what we'll do is we'll follow the agenda here and take 3 for the Harley drain, and then we'll come back at another meeting and we'll staff it with 5. So who's interested in the Harley drain? Councillor Coleman, Garneau, and Miller. Any objections to those 3 volunteers? Seeing none, any comments? Councillor Miller?
Just, I think, Rob, you said you're going to bring forward a future report, and I don't know if you go 5 or you stick with 3, because I think some.
It's humming.
I think some of those, maybe I don't know if they border or go on to another municipality, and at that point you have to appoint one of them as well. So that could complicate it. That's all I want to bring up.
I'm sure that they do cross over.
I can speak to that.
Mr. Walt.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, when we have another municipality involved, there's a procedure you have to follow. We had one of these last year, and we could only appoint 2 for our municipality and 1 for each other municipality. That municipality was the Township of Norwich, and they sent over their mayor. We had the quarter revision here. So when that comes up, we will have a special report. They do happen occasionally, not that often.
Any other concerns to the 3 appointments? Seeing none, all those in favor? Oh, I need a mover first. Sorry. Councillor Oakley, I need a seconder. Councillor Kyle, it's on the floor. There's no concerns. The appointments are approved. All those in favor? Thank you. Takes us to number 11 on the agenda, which is communications, the Association of Municipalities of Ontario, policy update. Anyone have any questions on that? Councillor Miller?
Well, no question, Mr. Mayor, but I would be willing to move that draft resolution. I was actually, I have it in my saved inbox. I was going to bring it forward at the end of February because I thought it's a fitting resolution to go along with some of the things we're struggling with as far as our budget goes. So, like I said, I'm willing to move that.
Oh, just refer to the clerk.
So through Mayor Bailey to Councillor Miller, there's actually 3 recommendations found within that AMO document. One is that resolution be passed. The second one is instructing staff to share support with local media channels. And the third is instructing staff to write or meet with the local MPP in advance of the provincial budget.
Can they all be moved together? Councillor Miller, are you comfortable moving them all together?
I am, Mr. Mayor.
Seeking a seconder. Councillor Oakley is my seconder. Is there any conversations, comments, concerns about 111.1? Councillor Oakley?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, just as a potential suggestion in regards to the last clause or request from AMO in regards to meeting or writing the local MPPs, perhaps that would be something to refer our Government Relations Committee to do.
Okay, that's actually a good recommendation.
I have them occasionally.
You do have them occasionally. I look forward to them every time. Councillor Coleman? Oh, okay. All right. So we're going to bundle them into the same resolution with Councillor Miller, and we're going to recommend that it be also forwarded to the other committee. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. 12.2 is the Brant Waterways Foundation Climate Change Action Scope to Work. Councillor Oakley, you have that.
Yes, Mr. Mayor. Moved by myself and seconded by Councillor Miller that the communication from Brant Waterways Foundation be referred to staff.
Any comments? All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. Takes us to number 12, which is resolutions. We have 12.1, which is Councillor Oakley.
Moved by myself and seconded by Councillor Bell that whereas we as the Council of the County of Brant have a desire to improve the affordability and availability of housing in the County of Brant urgently, and whereas increasing the supply of residential housing in the downtown core of an urban center has a wide range of benefits, including but not limited to providing housing where businesses and services already exist to reduce pollution, to provide year-round economic benefit to downtown businesses, and to improve the liveliness and feel of the heart of an urban center. And whereas our current special policy area and our new official plan limits the potential for growth in downtown Paris, respecting the challenges and safety considerations of an urban center in a floodplain, then it is directed that the County of Brant Council approves of, in principle, increasing residential and commercial density in downtown Paris, and that the County of Brant staff work with the Grand River Conservation Authority to increase the number of permitted residential units within the special policy area, considering both the economic development and residential safety, to coordinate with the downtown Paris master plan public consultation process.
Well, that was very impressive, Councillor Oakley. Any questions to Councillor Oakley about his resolution? Councillor Howes, I'm sorry.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you, I appreciate Councillor Oakley's work on this, and I'm certainly supportive of, especially of the very beginning part of this, the first whereas. My question is related to our official plan, and I'm interested in if council approves of, in principle, increasing residential and commercial density in downtown Paris. I'm curious as to how that impacts our official plan and its current status, and wondering, does this trigger some amendment to our official plan? I'm just wondering if planning staff could speak about that.
Allison, Jude? Oh, Pam's going to do it.
Through you, the mayor, to Councillor Howes. Great question. As you know, our new official plan has not yet been approved by the ministry. It's been 7 months and we're still waiting for that. The new official plan reverts back to the SPA policies. So it does, and there are some additions to that SPA policies where we've tried to implement some new flexibility in the official plan. So in our opinion, the official plan right now is quite flexible. We are happy to look at the zoning bylaw. We are happy to connect with GRCA, and we do think there's a lot of opportunities for downtown.
Councillor Howes.
Okay, thank you. I think that clarifies things for me, for now anyway.
Councillor Chambers.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and through you, I support the operative clauses in the resolution, but I don't support the resolution, and this is why. Usually policy directions that, such as what is outlined in the resolution, are incorporated in policy documents such as the official plan. Setting policy by resolution with extensive policy parameters is not good municipal practice. So I understand what the thrust of the resolution is, but the avenue to put it in place is not by resolution. It is by policy, such as official plan, that kind of thing. So I'm not going to support the resolution, but what should happen perhaps is a discussion on our official plan, which has not been approved yet. The policy that is reflected in the resolution can be incorporated in the official plan, and then you have a policy document that is policy that carries on beyond terms of council, etc., such as resolutions. The second thing is when you do municipal policy, you usually have public input on that policy. By passing a resolution such as this, you circumvent the public input on the policy. So when I vote against the resolution, I'm not voting against what's in the resolution, just the method by which the operative clauses are attempting to be put forward.
Councillor Bell.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'll stay away from process. I think Councillor Chambers has got that nailed down. I just want to say that I ran this term of council with the biggest agenda item in my ticket, and that was to get the downtown Paris master plan recast on the road, heading towards success and completion before the end of this term. We have downtown Paris challenges. If you just look at the just up the road there, where Home Hardware once was, they have moved to where there are centres of population. Canadian Tire made that move 10 years ago in advance of things happening to the north of us. This town buzzes during the summer. during winter, it kind of struggles to get by. And one of the solutions to retaining the vitality of our town, commonly known as the prettiest little town in Ontario, and that's an in-joke with a couple of people that were with me at Roma the other day. I think we need to work hard to make it, again, the prettiest little town in Ontario, or Canada, or whatever the original location was. But without repopulating it, without making it vital year-round, we're going to struggle. And I think we do have a time constraint, and Robert is quite right that there might be a different process we could have followed, but we are time-bound. We need to get this downtown Paris master plan recast before we start digging up Grand River Street North, just outside of this building. And we need to have a holistic, a completely thought through story. Right now we have developers who are willing to work with us to deliver what is needed, at least in my opinion, and I think in the opinion of others, to make Paris revitalized. They will work with us if we need municipal facilities. So they're making an offer, a kind of once in a lifetime offer, I think, for us to work with them for the benefit of our community. And so I'm fully supportive of this motion. It can't go quick enough for me. And I think we do have to amend the official plan. At least that's what my understanding was. If not, great. If we're already there, that's fine. We do have to bring GRCA on board with this. But all the interactions I've seen with the GRCA is that they will work with us. I think the provincial government will be delighted that we're trying to put some denser population in the location in Paris. So fully support this motion. Thanks to Lucas for drafting it.
Other comments before we go back to Lucas? We're going back to Lucas.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, just one comment in regards to the public consultation. Very specifically, we are attempting to route this through the Downtown Master Plan public consultation process, which will continue throughout this year. So there will be an opportunity for public consultation there, though I do admit it is not through our regular route for this type of engagement.
Councillor McAlpine.
Is there a time frame currently for the downtown master plan and its completion date?
Allison.
Through your worship, so we're working on detailed design right now. Our plan is to have the public consultation process throughout the summer, and then finalize the planning by the end of this year.
So it in relative terms is coming up immediately, basically. So I don't see the need necessarily to circumvent that process. That would be my concern at this stage.
I have a hard time hearing you.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm just saying that at this point with the master plan coming forward, so in very due process in the near future, I would think that it's not necessary to circumvent the process at this point.
Any other comments? Councillor Miller.
Just where are we with the flood study? And I'm just wondering how do these two go together? I'll take an answer from anybody at this point, whether it's Lucas or staff.
Rob?
Through the mayor to Councillor Miller. So we followed the Class TA process for the Paris Downtown Flood Disaster Mitigation Plan, I guess it's called. And when council accepted that report, we said that we would do a Schedule C study or a higher level study for the west side of the Grand River, just across Grand River Street here, the section with the buildings all against the river. So we're going to do more study there on what's been referred to in the public as the Great Seawall. And so we're going to do more study on that. That's going to happen in 2024. The rest of it is ready to go. The two highest priority projects are N1 and N2, which are the Nith River stretches right over here. Actually, quite a bit of design's done on that. When we've got to do some property issues and the like, but we're very close to a position to tender those when some federal money comes available. So we're working on that, and you're absolutely right. It is crucial to the rest of this that we get that plan finished and figure out a way to fund our part of it too.
Councillor Garneau?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. To speak in favor of the resolution tonight, I think one of the things we don't often talk about, myself and Councillor Oakley being new councillors anymore because it's been over a year, but what I realized in the last year is we missed the bus on some strategic things ourselves because we didn't exactly know when to interject at the right point because we were still learning. And I fear that this has been caught in that cycle. I am a process person by training. I respect where Councillor Chambers is coming from, but I worry that we are going to miss the bus on a bigger level if we don't go ahead and start to send the right signals to make the changes to increase the density. Because the other piece that comes with this too is the tax base, and that's a whole conversation for another day later this week. But through the revitalization of downtown, there will also be further opportunities there for the county. So with that in mind, tonight I will be supporting the resolution. So thank you.
Councillor Miller and then Councillor Bell.
Just a question maybe to the author of the resolution, and if he can help me at least understand, how do we ensure that this resolution, increasing residential density, which I think it's a good idea. I don't want it conflicting or making it worse, whatever we want to do as far as flood mitigation goes. So how do we prevent that? How do we make sure it doesn't happen, given that we're still studying that floodplain mitigation?
Councillor Oakley.
Through the mayor, I believe the way we would do that is having direct in the resolution directing our staff to work with the GRCA to take into consideration floodplain issues.
Councillor Bell.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just responding to a comment from Councillor McAlpine about circumventing, I don't believe we're circumventing. I think we're just throwing the weight and the will of council behind this. Given the time frame we have, we need to get into that conversation with GRCA. We shouldn't miss the opportunity to align a lot of activity downtown with our downtown Paris master plan, especially given that the work starts in a year from now.
Allison.
Thank you. Through you, Your Worship. Just to address some of these concerns and questions, internally we've assembled sort of multidisciplinary team, and we will be working with external agencies as well. I think the key to making this work is going to make sure that all of those respective studies dovetail, and you know, we're looking at this on a holistic basis. So we're going to be very conscious about bringing as many people in as possible to make sure that we're sort of checking all those boxes.
And any other comments? Councillor Coleman.
Not a comment, Mr. Mayor, but I'm going to ask to record a vote in this one.
Okay. Are there any other comments or questions? Seeing none, we don't have a seconder. Councillor Bell. Yeah, Councillor Bell. That's what I thought. Sorry. Okay, it's on the floor. It's been seconded. Madam Clerk, if you want to do a recorded vote in support of the resolution. Yeah.
Thank you, Your Worship. Just for Council's direction, as Councillor House is online, I'm not going to ask everybody to stand. I'm just going to go around and ask one at a time. Mayor Bailey.
I support it.
Councillor Kyle.
I support it.
Councillor McAlpine.
No.
Councillor House.
Yes.
Councillor Oakley.
Yes.
Councillor Bell.
Yes.
Councillor Miller.
Yes.
Councillor Chambers.
No.
Councillor Coleman.
Yes.
Councillor Garneau.
Yes.
The vote is 8 in favor, 2 opposed. The motion carries.
Thank you. Thank you for that, Lucas. It takes us to number 12.2. It's a notice of motion, and before the motion goes on the floor, I know that we can't talk about this motion and no conversation or debate around it, but I would like to ask Councillor Bell what prompted him to put it on the agenda.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Let me say by starting that I love the concept for this new main branch library, including the renovation of the Borkett Centre. But I've always worried about its affordability and the prioritisation of this project over other calls for our county funding. And since June 2023, when Council by majority vote agreed to a 6-point motion, we've been confronted with the most challenging budget in Council memory. I say that having consulted with councillors that have been here a long time, with the potential for a 10 to 13% property tax increase this year.
Mr. Mayor, I'm going to call a point of order because motions for reconsideration are not debatable. And I understand there's maybe a rationale, but that rationale is
thank you,
not
Councillor
debatable.
Chambers, but the motion hasn't been made yet. And in my term of 6 years, I've never had one come in front of me before, so I want to understand what Councillor Bell is thinking. So thank you for the point of order, but continue, Councillor Bell.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'll just go back a little. So since June,
keep it more simple then.
Yeah. Okay. We are faced with the potential for a very large property tax increase this year and the prospect of large increases in coming years. We're also reaching debt level limits, which are primarily driven by funding large capital projects, such as the proposed new library. Staff have prepared a draft long-term financial plan that further questions affordability, and that draft does not yet include all the calls on the municipality, which will further compound our financial challenges. We had one tonight when we talked about the funding for affordable housing. I'm going to bring forward in other business, and I kept it not as a secret. I just wanted to.
Mr. Mayor, I'm going to again call for point of order. According to procedural bylaw, a motion to reconsider is not debatable. So you cannot explain why you want a motion to reconsider, and that is exactly what the councillor is doing. So it is contrary to the procedural bylaw, and it's contrary to the requirement that no debate be allowed on a motion to reconsider.
Okay, first of all, there's been no motion to be considered brought forward yet, Councillor Chambers, and I have consulted with the clerks, and I do know what we can do. This is my meeting. If you have a problem with the way I'm handling it, you can do something beyond this meeting. But Councillor Bell is going to wrap it up right now. Then he's going to bring his motion forward, and then we're going to vote. I'm not going to vote, sorry. We're going to have another council meeting another day.
So
please wrap it up, Councillor
I will
Bell.
wrap it up. So I believe it's in the best interests of our community, and particularly its taxpayers, to step back and reconsider the approval to construct a new main branch library in the light of growing financial challenges. It's my understanding that the motion will be held at a special council meeting on Thursday at 3 p.m. following our scheduled committee of the whole meeting to address the budget. Thank you.
I understand that was a little awkward, but I do have the right to ask for clarification as to why it's on the agenda. So Councillor Bell, if you'd like to bring the, I'm sorry? He can read it. Do you want to read it?
I'm more than willing to read it.
I'd like to hear him read it.
So I'm bringing forward a notice of motion to reconsider a decision of council in regard to the new library and the Borkett Centre project design concept. That motion read in June 27, 2023, that the concept design for the main library and Borkett Centre be approved, that this project be approved for construction subject to site plan and zoning applications, that staff be directed to authorise Collaborative Structures Limited, (CSL), to issue requests for tender for the construction of the main library and Borkett Centre to pre-qualified contractors, that $13,489,000 be included in the 2024 capital budget with funding components from reserves, development charges, debt to be repaid by development charges, and debenture as funding sources. That the steering group transition to fundraising committee and begin fundraising efforts. And that staff be directed to investigate parking opportunities on adjacent streets and present designs for council consideration.
Thank you. Which takes us to number 13 on the agenda, Councillor Chambers.
Again, I don't want to appear that I'm being obstructive, but I have another point of order that I think is a determination that has to be made, and between then and between now and when the special council meeting is called, because it is very clear to me, according to our procedural bylaw, that the motion to reconsider is not allowable. And that's a result of rule number 44 in the procedural bylaw, which says if the action approved in the motion cannot be reversed, the motion cannot be reconsidered. It's my understanding, and this is one of the reasons why reconsideration should occur in time proximity to the original motion. But if an action is carried out as a result of the motion, then you cannot reconsider it. In other words, if the bell is rung, you can't unring it. If council passed a motion to close a book, you can reconsider it up until the time the book is closed. But once the book is closed, you can't reconsider it because the action has been carried out. Let me continue.
I'm sorry.
The operative clause that staff be directed to authorize Collaborative Structures Limited to issue requests for tender for the construction of the main library and Baucus Center be pre-qualified contractors. It's my understanding that that has occurred. The bell has been rung, the action has occurred. You cannot reconsider the action as it has occurred. So that's the point of order, that's the procedural, and a motion to reconsider for our procedural bylaw.
I can't come back to you, Councillor Bell, because we aren't to discuss this if it goes through.
I'm just discussing the point of order, if that's
I'm going to let Alison speak to the.
Through you, Your Worship, I would have to defer to the clerk on procedure, certainly. There are 6 clauses there, and I think that's where we would have to go back to which one of those has been executed or begun or not, but I would have to defer to the clerk on procedure.
Madam Clerk.
Respectfully, if one of the clauses, another problem with multi-operative clause resolutions is if one has been acted on, then that the reconsideration motion is on the motion in its entirety, and you cannot unring the bell. You cannot undirect staff to do something that was directed and they have done.
I'm going to ask the clerk to comment, Councillor Chambers.
Through Mayor Bailey's to Councillor Chambers, I do understand your point, and we have had extensive internal conversations as to what exactly that section means, how that would play out. In terms of my interpretation of that section, I do respectfully disagree. In my viewing, the entire clause, so in particular that one that you discussed, that staff be directed to authorize CSL to issue requests for tender. The question with regards to application of section 44, can that action be reversed? So the question is, does the fact that staff have directed them, so since we've directed them, we can't go back, or is it the fact that we've directed them to issue the request for tender? The request for tender hasn't been issued yet, therefore we can reverse the decision. In my mind, in my interpretation, the wording of the word reverse infers that the action has been carried out, because it doesn't say undo, it says reverse it. So the action's been done, but can that be changed? In my opinion, and it is solely my opinion, which I have expressed to the mayor, the motion is in order because all of those have not been taken to the point where it cannot be reversed. Not that they haven't been done, but they cannot be reversed.
And again, just if they have been done, if the bell has been rung, it can't be reversed. The action is staff directing staff. We're directed to authorize collaborative structures, etc. Staff did that, according to my understanding. So if they did that, they can't undo it because they did it. They rang the bell. It's been rung. They did it. So I'll leave that point of order, and you can clarify it. But it's if it is determined that staff has authorized Collaborative Structures Limited to issue the request, etc., and you can find that out, it's my understanding that they have, then clearly that motion cannot be reconsidered because you cannot undirect if you directed. And it's just a function of time elapsing and actions being carried out to carry out the will of council. And in this case, that direction was given 6 months ago and it has been carried out. So, and then keep in mind that you're dealing with $1 million contract.
Against a $40 million project. Councillor Kyle wants to speak to the point of order.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you, a question for I think Alicia. If I recall, this motion was voted on each clause separately. Does that change what we can and can't do?
Through Mayor Bailey to Councillor Kyle, Council will recall that each clause was separated and voted on separately. However, at the conclusion of that voting, the motion realigns, so it is one motion, and I would highly recommend that it stay that way. You don't want to be separating off individual clauses because then they can be incompatible. So they have realigned. It is that motion that, if the motion to reconsider is ruled in order, would be back on the floor.
Councillor Garneau, you're speaking to the point of order? Because we can't discuss anything else.
I wanted to ask where the procurement process was at, because that seems to be what's determining whether this is in order or not.
You could.
But I don't know if I'm even allowed to do that.
No, I don't think you can do that. We said we wouldn't do that, and we haven't done that yet. And the eyes are on us, so I think we should pass on that if we can. Okay, so we have 12.2 has been made. The motion's been made. Takes us to 13 on the agenda, noting that we will have conversations, Councillor Chambers, and it will be crystal clear before the next meeting. 13, other business. Who had other business? Councillor Bell.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. In a recent Expositor article, the city CAO indicated the city would be required to contribute $100 million to the build of the new Brantford General Hospital. He implied that we would have to contribute 50. I don't believe his numbers. I think he's missing out a whole chunk that Erin, when she came, the temporary CEO, when she came here and talked about. She took, I think the CAO from the city assumed a $2 billion cost. He forgot the soft furnishings part of it. But I guess where I'm going is, I think it's really important that we collectively understand what we are likely to have to contribute. And it's a really important part of our long-term financial plan. I think it's an important part of the structuring of how we build a hospital reserve fund, which I think Heather Boyd has very cleverly created, but if we're heading for the wrong target, I would like to know that now, and I'd like to adjust accordingly. So my request is through yourself to Alison, can we get Erin, or now the new permanent CEO, to come and update us on the hospital build and what the implications will be to county finances?
Alison.
Through you, your worship, yes, I have already made that request, and I agree. I think we need clarification. I understand it's a moving target, and those are going to move, but in order of magnitude, I think we all need to understand those numbers a little bit better. So my understanding is the new president and CEO is beginning the end of March. However, I have asked the steering committee to come in the interim if they're able to provide any clarification.
Is there anyone else that has anything for new business? Seeing none, I'm going to take us to number 14 on the agenda. Councillor Miller, you're going to take us in camera.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Moved by myself, second by Councillor Chambers, that County and Brant Council convene in camera to discuss an identifiable individual, health and safety issues, labor relations or employee negotiations, and that's firefighter remuneration update, and a proposed or pending acquisition of land, that being 43 Simcoe Street in the Oakland Community Center.
Thank you. All those in favor? Opposed? And we're going to go in camera and we're going to take a 10-minute recess. Thank you. We're back in open session and we're going to reconvene. And we have to ratify who has 14-2. Councillor who? Kyle.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. Moved by myself and seconded by Councillor McAlpine that staff be directed to dedicate funds up to $75,000 in the operating and capital budget to bring the Oakland Community Center up to spec, and that $2,000 be allocated for operation of the Safe Zone program, and that $540 flat rate honorarium for firefighters and $598 available for station equipment apparatus checks be added to the 2024 budget.
Everyone's clear? All those in favor? Is he sleeping? It was unanimous. Councillor Howes was dozing a little bit. Okay, so now we're at number 15, which is the bylaws. Councillor Garneau, you're going to take us through those too.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Moved by myself and seconded by Councillor Coleman that bylaws 2-24 to 5-24 be read a first time.
All those in favor of the first reading of the bylaws? If you could do the second reading for us, Councillor Garneau.
Absolutely. Moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Coleman that bylaws 2-24 to 5-24 be read a second time and all preambles and clauses be adopted.
Are there any questions to the reading of the bylaws? Seeing none, all those in favor of the second reading? And if you could finish it off with the third read, Councillor Chambers.
Just with respect to the drainage report, first and second readings, there was a gentleman here that made a presentation. He claimed that he is not on the circulation list. Could it just be noted that Mr. Hughes be circulated with the appeals process with regard to the Court of Revision, et cetera, because since he did make the presentation, he should be notified.
Clerk has it noted. Do we have his address, Councillor Chambers, or do we have his address?
It's in the minutes, Hughes, 166 Harley Road or something to that effect.
All right, we'll find it. Thank you. If you could finish it off with the third reading, please, Councillor Garneau.
So moved by myself and seconded by Councillor Coleman that bylaws 3-24 to 5-24 be read a third time, passed, signed, and executed.
All those in favor of the third reading? Thank you. Is there anything else for the betterment of the County of Brant? Councillor Miller, you want to say a few words?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just 70 seconds of your time. On behalf of myself and my family, I wish to express our deepest gratitude to members of council and staff, both present and past, for the support shown us upon the death of my father, Joe. From the flowers to the cards, donations, emails, text conversations, or the visitation and funeral, the support was overwhelming. In regards to my dad, I will say that while he had a good life, he certainly did not have an easy life. He endured a lot growing up in World War II Europe, being forced to learn a new language twice, living in an uninsulated prairie shack during brutal winters, losing an 18-year-old son, opening his extremely ill-timed pride and joy, Paris Dodge Chrysler, only to have Chrysler on the verge of bankruptcy and interest rates over 20%. To watching more than one tobacco harvest, entire profits lost to an early frost, and realizing you just worked another year for nothing. But he always soldiered on with a positive attitude and unbelievably strong work ethic. He served his 5 terms on Burford Township in the County of Brant with pride. On a personal note, this whole experience has left me most humbled. Look around this room. You are surrounded by some very, very decent and kind people. It's humbling to realize that these are the people I annoy on a monthly basis, and I don't think that's going to change. But at the end of the day, my father had a good life, a good death, and a good funeral. May we all be so fortunate. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Councillor Chambers.
If I could, Mr. Mayor, I had the great privilege of serving with Joe Miller on not only Burford Township Council, but he sat right here at County Council for a couple of terms, and it was always a pleasure and a measure of respect to have Joe sitting here. I know David is very proud of Joe, and I also know that Joe would be very, very proud of David. And it's an honor to sit between the two Millers on County Council, and I certainly will miss Joe. I knew him not only on council but off of council. We were tobacco farmers together. One winter we worked at the Lackey Brothers in Kitchener together, and he was a good man. And as I said, David, I know is proud of Joe, and I know Joe would be very, very proud of David.
And on the same note, it was an honor to be at your father's funeral and be surrounded by so many people I knew. In fact, one of my dearest friends, Carol Ann Westbrook, who's a very good friend of your mother, told me many, many stories while we were waiting for the funeral to start about your family, and it was nice to see so much love and so much concern in the church. So you do have the support of your council, and it was nice. Councillor Coleman was there, Councillor Wheat was there, and it was nice to hear the stories. I didn't know your father, but you must have been a great guy to hear what I heard. So, anything else for the betterment of the county of Brant? Seeing none, I call the meeting adjourned.